My brother helped me escape from my parents when they tried to force me to drop out of college to raise my sister's kids. We were both disowned, and now he's spiraling badly. Please help me be the one to save him this time. Hi, I, 20F, am currently in my 4th semester of college. The fact that I am able to go to college is largely thanks to my brother, Mike, 27M. This resulted in both of us being estranged from our family, and the reason for this post is that I need help supporting him through his resulting depression and isolation. Some backstory: we come from a patriarchal, conservative Christian background, although we didn't really practice. However, everything was always in the obey your parents vibe. My parents, both 43, are the oldest siblings in their families. My father's family, parents, 2 brothers, 1 sister, all live within 20 minutes of my parents' home. All my aunts and uncles are married, and I have 8 cousins on that side. My mother's family is originally from here as well but has since left the area. My grandparents moved to a retirement community in Arizona several years ago. My uncle is career military and currently stationed, I don't know where, and my aunt Kay moved to Arizona after graduating college for her career. We are from a Midwestern U.S. state and are Caucasian. This whole fiasco started when my older sister, Lisa, 22F, was in college back in the spring of 2020. Right before COVID shut down her college that March, she got pregnant after a party. She didn't know until after she was back home. In the fall of 2020, during my senior year of high school, I started my college application process while my pregnant sister lived at home. Mike had finished school several years prior and had started his career about 90 minutes away from our hometown. Lisa gave birth to twins a few days after Thanksgiving 2020. In January 2021, I received early acceptance to my dream school, not Harvard or anything, but a highly rated public Ivy in my state. I had also received enough of a scholarship to cover tuition, but not room and board. Obviously, I was ecstatic. Unfortunately, that excitement was about to come crashing down. In May 2021, my parents told me that I could not go to school and that I needed to stay home to raise my nieces while my sister went back to school since she needed a better education to support her kids. Much screaming ensued, with my father eventually telling me that his decision was final and that was that. Well, Mike learned what happened, called me, and said, "Yeah, that's not happening," and we made plans. I'd like to take a moment to give a shout out to the Reddit post back in early 2021 that discussed the steps to take and the documents to gather in order to successfully leave home for good. And that's what we did. We had discussed plans a few times when he visited and took me out to lunch, and one day that July, I had my essentials packed, left a letter for our parents, and after lunch, we just went back to his apartment. As you can imagine, the fallout was explosive, starting with angry calls and texts and eventually leading to both of us being disowned by the family for being disloyal. Mike had predicted this, and we were both prepared for it, so it wasn't a surprise. That August, he paid my remaining school balance, dropped me off at my dorm, and I have been living and studying here ever since. He has continued to pay for my room and board and whatever else scholarships didn't cover. I cannot thank him enough for what he has done for me. Since then, we have had pretty much no contact with our parents, sister, and all aunts, uncles, and grandparents on my dad's side. I'm still in touch with 2 cousins, 19F, 17F, who support me and think we made the right decision. We do have contact with my mom's side and have both flown out to Arizona for the last 2 holiday seasons to spend time with them. This past holiday, Aunt Kay first brought up her concerns about Mike. They are very close, she is only 3 years older than him, and we all grew up together in our grandparents' house, so they're like siblings, and I guess she picked up on some things that seemed off. The issue I need help with: Aunt Kay and I have noticed that he seems to be becoming more depressed and isolated, and I'm hoping for advice on how to support him. Mike is somewhat introverted and has always had a very small social circle. A lot of his social outlet was with our extended paternal family. There were frequent family BBQs, especially during football season when they happened almost weekly. Throw in holidays, birthdays, etc., and there were probably at least 2 big family events per month. Mike was able to attend most of them, and he always tried to hang out with my dad and uncles, even though they always acted lukewarm toward him. Now that he no longer has that outlet, he hasn't really replaced it with anything else over the past 18 months. So please, Reddit, any advice would be greatly appreciated. He gave me my life back, and I need to find a way to do the same for him. Thank you all. Note: I do plan on sharing this post with him when he visits me next weekend. My school is about a 2-hour drive from where he lives, so he meets me for lunch 2 to 3 times a month. I want to be able to sit down, read this with him, and talk about everything, so thank you again. Edit. I saw a few comments below regarding our extended family, so I thought I would add a couple of notes. My mom's side fully supports what Mike and I have done. We both talk to our grandparents and aunt regularly and have even visited them a few times in the past year in Arizona. From what I can gather about my dad's side from talking with my cousins, some of the family don't think we are wrong but are just following my dad's lead since he is the oldest sibling. My uncles, my dad's brothers, still very much support my dad's point of view. According to my aunt, my mom and sister both want to put this all behind us and move forward, but my dad is being stubborn and won't let it go, and they don't want to go behind his back. The craziest thing to me is that my sister didn't even want to go back to her school. My dad was going to force her to return. It still boggles my mind how they thought it would work out. Growing up, our parents had always encouraged all three of us to pursue some kind of higher education after high school, either a traditional college or trade school. So there wasn't really a gender dynamic of dad works, mom raises the kids in the extended family. None of my aunts, or grandmothers, for that matter, are traditional stay-at-home moms. I would also like to thank everyone who has commented so far. I have shared this post with both my Aunt Kay and some friends here who are aware of my situation. Mike is still planning on coming down here on Saturday, so I am hoping to update this after. Relevant comments. Commenter. I think the underlying issue can be found in the parents' ages. They're 43. Mike is 27, so they had Mike when they were 16. Yikes. They're subconsciously jealous of Mike and opt for doing life the right way and not getting knocked up. Their solution to their sister's pregnancy outside of marriage was to punish the sister who didn't screw up, and that is insanely toxic. Deep down, some part of them realizes that what they're doing by disowning two of their kids is horrible and unchristian. Mike is a strong person for doing what he did for his sister. Op's response. I think you could be right about the age. My parents had him at the end of 10th grade. After high school, they both had to go straight into the workforce, working minimum wage jobs, back in the late 90s/early 2000s. So, not much was coming in, and they didn't have the time or money to go to any kind of school. They got married in a courthouse wedding about a month after graduation. My dad still works a low-skilled job. Mom didn't gain any further skills until after I started school, when my aunt helped her learn several MS Office programs really well. Just this basic skill set helped her career a lot. She makes more than dad now. Meanwhile, dad's siblings all went to various trade schools and earn a good living for their families. My sister has no idea who the father is. According to her, it was a drunken one-night stand. Even at the time, she had no idea who, and that was 3 years ago at a college with 20,000 plus students. When my parents sat her and me down, they hadn't even told her the plan yet, so we were both like, WTF? Another comment mentioned how they don't want to raise more babies, and I think that is true. They wanted my sister to focus on school so she could support herself and the kids. So, they wanted me to raise the kids so she could focus on school. That upset us both since she didn't want to leave her kids, and I didn't want to lose 3 to 4 years of my life raising someone else's kids, along with my scholarship. Don't get me wrong, I love my nieces, but they need their mom more than a babysitter at this point in their lives. I think my parents were just overly stressed about raising more kids, both time-wise and financially, and came up with a very poorly thought-out plan without even discussing it with my sister and me. Update 8 days later. Hi, I just wanted to post a quick update on what I posted last week. I say quick, but it's probably going to be long, so apologies in advance, just trying to get everything out of my head. Mike came down here on Saturday as planned. I had spoken to my Aunt Kay before this, and she thought that if I gently asked direct questions and probed, he would answer. So that was my plan. My roommates knew the situation and what I was planning to do, and they were understanding and agreed to give us the apartment to ourselves for the afternoon. After he arrived and we ate, I just straight up said to him that Aunt Kay and I had noticed some changes in his behavior and that he seemed really down. He looked at me for a bit, then slowly nodded and agreed. I took this as a good sign that he would be open and honest with me. I told him that I wanted to help him, to please be open and talk to me, and that I wouldn't judge him for anything. He said okay. Then I pulled out my laptop and mentioned that I had made a post on Reddit about him, and he gave me a very confused look. I sat down next to him and asked him to just read it, and we could talk about it. Well, he basically broke down with his head in his hands after reading the title. So yeah, I guess it was pretty accurate. I just held him and said that we would talk whenever he was ready. After a few minutes, he was able to collect himself, and we went through the whole post together. Then we started reading the comments one at a time and talking about each one. He took all of the comments and suggestions to heart, and we talked about how he could go about putting himself out there more, both in dating and in trying to make new friends. In typical nerd fashion, he even broke all of the ideas down into categories: outdoor, indoor, online, and is willing to give pretty much anything a try. The city he lives in isn't huge, but a quick look through its subreddit found a few things, so the opportunity is there. He seemed a little embarrassed, in a good way, about all the praise he was getting. I knew he would be, but I just told him that other people see him for the wonderful brother that he is. There were a couple of comments that mentioned sewer slide or substance abuse that I really pressed him on. He promised he wasn't doing substances or drinking excessively. In all the times I was at his place, he never had more than a six-pack of Guinness or some craft beer. This is something I am definitely going to keep an eye on since I don't want him to drink his pain away. He said that while he never really thought about actually hurting himself, he sometimes feels lost and has dark thoughts that can really mess up his mood. He admitted that he was struggling and very frustrated with himself at times. He said that he often can't even look at himself in a mirror because he's embarrassed about where he is in his life, outside of work, compared to his friends. Really, he just feels like his closest friends have all moved on to the next phase of their lives, while he's stuck, unable to move forward. He's scared that he's going to turn into one of those people who have their own dedicated subreddit on here. He often just drives around the city after work for hours because he doesn't want to go home, and every once in a while, he said he has gone to bed with the thought that he didn't really care if he woke up or not. All of this scared me and broke my heart. He agreed that this isn't healthy, a massive understatement, to say the least, and that he needs to seek professional help soon. We talked about his social life after college. He said that for the first couple of years, he and his closest friends and their significant others would meet a few times a week and travel somewhere together every few months. He separated from his girlfriend of 4 years in 2019. He and his friends still met up after the lockdown started in 2020, but it became less and less frequent as they became more involved with their partners and later, their kids. Eventually, they were meeting once a month or less. Mike recognized this but said he had a hard time meeting new people to go out with or finding people who were looking to make new friends as opposed to just chit-chatting while doing whatever activity they were doing. He said he found it very hard to break into existing friend groups and has some acquaintances but not really anyone he feels close to. At the same time, he was going to more and more family functions just to fill a void, be social around people, and dote on our nieces after they were born. After that was gone, he felt completely lost and spiraled downward but didn't know how to communicate how he felt until I forced the issue. It was mentioned that I should not keep defending my parents, and I agree. What they wanted to do was inexcusable and unforgivable. I asked Mike if he would ever consider reconciling with the family if they reached out. He said, "Lisa, yes. Mom, maybe. Everyone else can F off." I was a little surprised and asked why, and he said that they had basically told him what they really thought of him, his life, and his interests. He pulled out his phone and showed me the old texts from when I left, multiple messages from our father calling him a disgrace, disowning him, demanding that he return me to them, WTF, I am not property, calling him the mastermind of this plot to destroy the family, and all sorts of other vile stuff. One uncle mocked his manliness for doing things like reading, he likes to read fantasy books, and criticized his career, engineering, as not being manly enough. One aunt threatened to cut his balls off because they are the source of attitude and disobedience, and another uncle threatened to beat the crap out of him if he saw him again. I think Mike would wipe the floor with any one of them. More of the same came from our grandparents, Dad's parents, and some other adults on that side. I had received some nasty messages, just not threats, and I was a little shocked overall, but he just had a little smirk. When I gave him a questioning look, he simply said that it's good to know how people really feel and where you stand with them. When I asked about Mom, he showed me her last few messages to him. I was expecting more of the same, but it was much different, and I'm not sure what to make of it. She said, "Your father needs you to bring her back right now." Mike, I can't do that. You know if I do, she will never be able to get out. Mom, I know. Please take care of her. I love you both. Mike, I will. I love you too, Mom. Not gonna lie, I cried after that for a bit. So yeah, it turns out that my dad's whole family is a lot more toxic and despicable than I thought. I still can't figure out Mom's reaction, though. I asked him point blank if he wanted me to take out a loan to cover my expenses for the rest of my time at school, and he rejected that immediately. I said that I didn't want him going into debt for me, and he said that he wasn't. He pulled up his account and showed me the transaction last month from his savings account to my school as proof. He said that he wanted me to be able to finish school debt-free like he did since it takes so much pressure off. Most of his friends are 40K plus in debt, so even though there is currently a payment pause, eventually that will come due. I asked him how he was able to do that, and he said he got merit scholarships plus several grants that covered all but about 2K per semester, which he could cover himself. He always worked to ensure he had enough money for the difference. We grew up low income, not exactly in poverty, but definitely at the lower end of the middle class. I would have been eligible for need-based aid as well, but my parents refused to fill out the forms, so I wasn't able to get the grants or regular student loans, and they wouldn't co-sign a private loan. This was how they were going to force me to stay. When Mike found out, he did the math and figured that as long as I was able to keep my scholarship to cover tuition, he would be able to cover the rest. It comes out to about $7,000 per semester that he is covering. I feel more comfortable knowing that he isn't going into debt for me, and I am definitely making sure I keep my GPA well above the level needed to maintain my scholarships. He told me not to worry about the money and to just focus on doing my best. I also found out that he is still sending money every month to our sister, something I knew he did before but didn't realize he was still doing. His response? A shrug and a comment that he was pretty sure the kids aren't eating less. We ended up talking much longer than I realized, and my roommates came back around 7 and asked if we wanted to get some dinner. I asked Mike if he wanted to stay and keep talking, and he said yes. We ordered some pizza, and the 6 of us plus my 3 roommates and 1 boyfriend, sat in our living room to eat. I could tell this was probably Mike's worst-case scenario, being in a group of friends but not really knowing anyone other than me. His body language showed he was uncomfortable and guarded, body tense, head down, shoulders hunched forward, but my friend Nikki made sure to keep him engaged in the conversation, and after 10 to 15 minutes, Mike visibly relaxed. He sat back, looked more at ease, and was much more forthcoming. I was so happy for him and thought that maybe he's just someone who needs a little more time to really become comfortable before opening up and talking freely with new people. He ended up crashing on our couch that night. Sunday morning, he took me to breakfast so we could talk some more before he dropped me off at work. We had a long hug, and he thanked me for recognizing that he needed help. He said that reading the comments, talking about how he felt, and coming up with some ideas and plans made him feel better than he had in a long time. I told him that I love him, that I am always there for him, and reminded him that we are a team in this. After work, I called Aunt Kay, and we talked about everything. She was happy that I was able to get him to open up and understood that it was probably hard for him to ask for help. She is also going to keep nudging him to be more open and to put himself out there more. So this is where we are now. He has some homework to do, finding some new things to try out and just getting out to meet people. I also told him that he has to have at least 2 dating accounts set up before we meet up again, and I would help him create a good profile, lol. I'm glad that he doesn't really have many regrets about what we did, I know I don't, and that he's really focused on moving forward. I know this will be a long and sometimes painful process for him, but I told him I would be there for him every step of the way. I have also reached out to some of his friends on social media to see if they would be willing to talk with me about him. I also want to talk with their significant others, since they know him, and I would like a female friend's perspective rather than just a sister's perspective. Oh, and to the commenter/DM who said I should have sex with him to help him, not sure what to say other than he's not my type. We aren't that close? Shake my head, I don't know. I guess this counts as my one update for this. If anything else happens, I can either put it in the comments or on my personal page if the post is locked. I would like to sincerely thank everyone who responded for the kind words, love, advice, ideas, and insight into things we hadn't realized or considered. It really meant a lot to both of us. Much love for the hive mind. Second update 2 days later. I wanted to respond to a few comments that were made before the post was locked/removed. 1. I am definitely going to talk to the financial aid office about my situation and see if I can be considered an independent student for aid purposes. Thanks for the info on that, I didn't know this was a thing. 2. I know he has everyone blocked except for our mom and sister. I know it hurts him that our nieces are likely going to grow up in that environment. 3. The uber-controlling part of my father didn't really come out until our grandparents, mom's parents, permanently moved to Arizona. I think since we were all living in their house, it was Grandpa who was the man of the house. Mike was already in college when that happened, so he didn't get the full extent of it. This also coincided with my sister discovering boys in 8th grade, so it could be a combination of both. My male cousins, 15 and 16, are already going down the path of my uncles and how they treat their older sisters, and it makes me sad that this thought process is continuing. 4. He was always a great brother to both my sister and me. He doted on us when we were younger and made time to be with us. When he got a job and then when he came home to visit from college/work, he would take us both out individually for ice cream or something just to talk. This is something Mom also did for all 3 of us. Even when we didn't have a lot of money, she took us out once a week to talk about whatever, even if we were just getting $1 McDonald's drinks and fries to share. 5. I think the dinner/hangout with my friends was the first time I had seen him interact in a casual social way with people he did not know. It really helped me see how he first acted, stoic and robotic, and then how he slowly eased into the conversation after a while. My friends made a point to keep him involved. The boyfriend, Rob, even got to talk a little about school stuff since Rob goes to the college that Mike did. They both went to my school's biggest rival. It was like as soon as he was able to relax and feel like a part of the room, he changed and was able to engage naturally. 6. He agrees he needs to treat his mental, emotional, and social health with the same priority and focus that he uses to help those he cares about and work on building new relationships. It will likely be a long and sometimes painful process for him, but he knows he has support. 7. He is working on setting up an appointment with a therapist through his employer's EAP to help him work through some of the issues I brought up in the update. I promised him I wouldn't judge him, but some of the things he said really scared me and broke my heart that he kept so much pain inside. 8. I hadn't seen the family texts he showed me before. They are all from when we first left, he just never deleted them. I think everyone is right that my mom is suffering from emotional abuse. I am worried for her, my sister, and my nieces in that regard. 9. I plan on, and have already started, doing more FaceTime/phone calls with him instead of just texts to try and make a more personal connection. Third update 1 week later. Hi, I originally posted this as a comment and am adding it here to keep a record for myself. I realized after my original post that I was way too close to the situation and to give an accurate assessment of my family dynamic. I was even trying to defend my parents at one point, so, yeah, WTF? I learned a lot by going through the comments here, and it made me think. Yes, my parents preached a lot about being good Christians, obeying your father, etc., but there was more to it, as some pointed out. I feel my father's family is a lot more narcissistic and controlling than is typical in our community. My mom's family was from the same church but was far more moderate. So, looking at it now, it's hard to separate the church from the family. But in the end, it probably doesn't really matter. One thing for sure is that my father was the oldest son, even among his cousins, and was expected to set the example for the rest of the family. That didn't work out so well and was embarrassing for the whole family. My father wasn't able to pursue any further education after high school and has basically worked low-wage jobs his whole life. In contrast, my uncles all went to trade schools and make a much better living than my father, another hit to his pride. My mom eventually got some computer/office software training after I started school and landed a much better job. She makes more than my father now, but not so much more that she could support my sister and nieces on her own. My father does not want to raise more kids. He felt he was almost done. I was a senior about to graduate, and the girls were a lot more to handle than expected. This was also mentioned in the comments and is absolutely true. My father, uncles, and apparently my 15M and 16M cousins act somewhat like an R-rated version of King of the Hill, where they stand around, drink, and basically mock and talk crap about everything and everyone they don't like. My cousins are starting to turn into my uncles, and my 2 older female cousins, 17F and 19F, are desperately trying to get out as well. There's a lot of talking behind family members' backs, not just about my brother, and plenty of drunken boasting. Specifically related to my brother, I think some commenters were right. Much of it stems from jealousy that he makes more right out of school than they'll probably ever make in their current paths. My uncles definitely think that any kind of office job is not manly. I've heard this line many times in reference to Mike. One thing I will give my father credit for is that he totally supported Mike's career path. There were plenty of other things my father had issues with, but the job was not one of them. I apologize for any confusion about that. They all openly mocked Mike for his interest in reading, computer games, and robotics. He was part of our school's robotics club. They also didn't like that Mike wasn't into things like hunting or fishing. They all seemed to forget that Mike also played football and was a starting linebacker for our high school team. I don't know how to explain what a linebacker is to someone unfamiliar with American football other than saying they're basically on a seek and destroy mission for the person with the ball. This is somewhat why I think Mike would tear any one of my uncles apart. Like I said, my uncles are good at drunken bragging, but I think they'd wilt if actually confronted. The last thing I want to say is that I'm worried about my sister, nieces, and mom. Mike is too. He never blocked their numbers. I think if they reached out to him and asked for help, he would go instantly. I don't know if that would be a good idea or not, but he would do it. He was a lot closer to mom, a bit of a mama's boy, TBH, sorry, and I think he'd go and figure out the rest later. Fourth update 1 year 6 months later. This has been the most emotional week of my life. I'm sitting here in my aunt's living room, watching my almost 4-year-old nieces sleep. I still can't believe it. Mike and I had been planning to visit our grandparents and Aunt Kay and her family for a while. We left the day after my summer internship ended. We had no idea that they would also be visiting. My mom and Aunt Kay confirmed that they wanted to surprise us. Well, they succeeded. When Mike and I landed and I turned my phone on, I saw a message from Aunt Kay that was just a selfie of her, my sister, and my mom, with a note that simply said to have a safe trip and that they would see us soon. I almost broke down right there in the airport and showed Mike the message. He started breathing heavily, but his face was unreadable. I'm glad he was driving because I don't know if I would have been able to. When we pulled up to the house, my mom and Lisa basically tackled me in the front yard, eventually pulling Mike into a massive group hug as well. Since then, the week has mostly been filled with talking, laughter, tears, and hugs. Mom and Lisa have taken us both aside many times to talk one-on-one, especially Mike. The only downside is that my nieces didn't recognize Mike or me, which is to be expected, I guess, since they were only about 8 months old the last time we saw them. I hate that I have missed so much of their lives. They seem to warm up to me in a few days, probably because my mom, Lisa, and I look pretty much alike, only differing in height and hair color. They have yet to really warm up to Mike, but Lisa has repeatedly assured him that they will get to know him. So yeah, that's where we are right now. I'm completely emotionally drained, but I couldn't be happier. Mike and I head back home later today, and I start my senior year next week. I know I will get to see them regularly. I'm glad my mom finally told my father that she is going to have a relationship with all of her kids regardless of how he feels. It feels like that giant void in my life is now gone. Thank you to anyone who has read and responded to my story. It has helped both Mike and me these last 18 months more than you will ever know. Love you all. Op does a mini life update in a comment 4 months 3 weeks later. Thank you. We are all doing so much better now. They have visited me at school several times this past semester, and we all spent Christmas at Mike's house. We are still taking things slow with the kids, but I am getting to know them now, and I can't express how happy that makes me.